If you've been struggling financially, and nothing you try seems to move your life forward, listen closely, because when God sees His child sinking, He doesn't stay silent. He sends a warning before He sends the breakthrough. But here's what most people never realize. The financial battle you see often starts in a place you don't. And until you recognize this one spiritual pattern, the same pattern the enemy uses to block your blessing, your situation will stay exactly where it is. Stay with me. Before this video ends, you will understand why your finances keep getting stuck, and the message God has been trying to get to you this whole time. When your finances feel stuck, it's easy to think it's just bad luck, a bad month, or the economy working against you. But spiritually, that's almost never the real cause. In Scripture, whenever God's people stopped progressing, there was always a deeper signal behind it, a warning meant to redirect, protect, or awaken them. And the same thing happens today. Sometimes the first sign God sends isn't a miracle. It's discomfort, the slowed income, the unexpected expenses, the feeling that no matter how hard you try, something pushes back. It's not punishment, it's not abandonment, it's not failure, it's a signal. A spiritual pressure point meant to make you look closer instead of pushing harder in the wrong direction. Because here's the truth no one teaches. Your financial struggle is rarely about money. It's about what money is revealing a habit that's draining you, revealing a pattern that keeps repeating, revealing a door God closed, but you keep trying to force open. And until you recognize that signal for what it is, the cycle continues, slowly, quietly, and painfully. This is why God warned His people repeatedly. Pay attention to the signs, before the signs become consequences. Your struggle is not random, it's not meaningless, it's the beginning of a message. If you look closely, you'll notice something unsettling. Your financial struggle doesn't appear out of nowhere. It follows a pattern, one that many people never recognize. It begins with small neglects, a delayed decision, a habit you keep saying you'll fix next month, a red flag you ignore because you hope it will disappear. And then the pattern grows, not because you want it to, but because the enemy uses what you ignore to create what eventually traps you. In the Bible, the enemy never attacked suddenly. He attacked subtly. Not by taking everything at once, but by distracting, draining, and weakening piece by piece until the person no longer had the strength to fight back. That's exactly how financial traps work today. They hide inside daily routines, the comfort purchase, the just this once, the silent anxiety that pushes you into rushed decisions, the fatigue that makes you settle for survival instead of strategy. Little by little, your peace erodes, your clarity fades, your momentum slows, and suddenly you find yourself stuck, wondering how you got here. But here's the spiritual truth. Where there is a repeating pattern, there is a deeper battle. The enemy cannot block your blessing directly. So he tries to weaken the habits that carry you toward it. He tries to plant exhaustion where there should be discipline, fear where there should be trust, impulsiveness where there should be wisdom. Not to destroy you instantly, but to get you to sabotage yourself slowly. God warns you not to scare you, but to stop the pattern before it becomes a prison. One of the hardest moments in a believer's life is when you're praying, working, trying, and still, nothing changes. Bills stay heavy, opportunities slip, promotions delay, doors close before you even touch them. And you start wondering, God, why aren't you fixing this? But here is the truth almost no one tells you. Sometimes God allows the struggle to continue because stopping it too early would keep you blind. If He rescued you instantly, you'd return to the same habits that created the cycle in the first place. If He opened every door immediately, you'd walk into rooms your character isn't ready to sustain. If He removed every financial pressure, you'd ignore the spiritual pressure that's shaping you. God isn't punishing you. He's revealing you. Revealing the places where trust is shallow. Revealing the patterns that make you unstable. Revealing the fears that still control your decisions. Revealing the areas where discipline collapses when life gets hard. Because God does not build blessings on weak foundations. He builds them on people who learn to stand. So when the struggle doesn't break, when the pressure doesn't lift, when the situation doesn't change, don't assume God is ignoring you. Assume He's preparing you. What feels like delay is often protection. What feels like resistance is often refinement. What feels like silence is actually strategy. Because once God shows you the pattern, once He shapes your character, once He strengthens what was once unstable, the blessing that seemed late will arrive right on time. Most people think financial warfare begins with money. It doesn't. It begins with attention. Because the enemy knows something most believers never realize. If he can steal your focus, he can steal your future. And nothing affects your finances more than the direction of your focus. So what does the enemy do? Not something obvious, something subtle. He fills your mind with noise. The worry about tomorrow, the guilt about yesterday, the distraction that pulls you off track, the fear that keeps whispering, nothing is going to change. He doesn't need you to sin. He just needs you shaken. Shaken enough to stop planning. Shaken enough to stop building. Shaken enough to stop believing you're capable. Because unfocused people don't grow. Unfocused people don't steward well. Unfocused people don't recognize the opportunities God places right in front of them. And here's the part that's spiritual. Distraction is not just a bad habit. It's a strategy. A divine blessing requires clarity. The enemy's trap requires confusion. So he attacks your sleep, your energy, your consistency, your confidence, your time, your peace. Not to destroy your finances today, but to delay the person you're becoming tomorrow. But God's warning is clear. Be still, pay attention. Protect your focus. Because once you regain clarity, once your spirit settles, once your priorities lock into place, the things that felt impossible become manageable. The patterns that kept repeating finally break, and the blessings that seemed blocked begin to move. Not because the world changed, but because your focus did. One of the most dangerous traps in a season of financial struggle is carrying weights that were never yours to hold. And the enemy knows it. If he can't block your blessing directly, he'll overload your spirit until you're too exhausted to receive it. So he plants extra burdens, people who drain you emotionally, responsibilities that don't belong to you, fears that whisper that everything is your fault, guilt that makes you feel obligated to fix what God never assigned to you. And little by little, your strength leaks, your clarity dims, your pace slows, your confidence erodes, your joy disappears. And your finances suffer because your spirit is tired. Here's the spiritual truth. A burden God didn't give you will always break you. God's assignments come with grace. The enemy's assignments come with pressure. God's direction brings peace. The enemy's distractions bring exhaustion. So when you start feeling constantly overwhelmed, responsible for everyone's crisis, guilty for setting boundaries, obligated to rescue people, ashamed for saying no, that's not humility. That's a spiritual trap. Because as long as you're carrying everything, you can't carry what God is trying to give you. This is why God warns you with fatigue, not to punish you, but to wake you up. Fatigue is not failure. It's revelation. It reveals you're lifting something God never approved. It shows you where your peace is leaking. It exposes where your loyalty is costing your destiny. And here's the shift. The moment you release the weight God never asked for, your finances begin to move again. Your decisions sharpen. Your spirit strengthens. Your vision clears, your discipline returns, your blessing flows, because God cannot bless the version of you that's buried under everyone else's expectations. But He will bless the version of you that finally steps into obedience and lets go of what He never assigned. Most people look at financial delay as a sign that God is distant. But spiritually, delay is often the clearest evidence that God is close. Because God doesn't just bless you, He protects the blessing from destroying you. And here is the truth many believers never discern. God will delay what you're praying for until your life can safely hold it. He sees what you don't see. He sees the pressure that comes with increase. He sees the responsibility attached to abundance. He sees the spiritual attacks that rise when new doors open. And He sees the cracks in your foundation that the enemy hopes you'll ignore. So what does God do? He pauses the blessing to strengthen the person. He withholds the increase to fortify the structure. He slows the progress to expose what would have collapsed under greater weight. Because God would rather frustrate you for a moment than see you lose everything in a season you weren't ready for. And the enemy knows this. So while God is preparing you, the enemy whispers, "See, nothing is changing. God forgot you. You're falling behind. You're doing something wrong." Not because any of it is true, but because impatience is one of his most effective traps. If he can make you move ahead of God, you will step into blessings without wisdom, opportunities without discernment, and financial doors without spiritual preparation. That is how destinies collapse. But here is the warning wrapped in mercy. If God is delaying it, it's because something in you is developing. Your discipline, your vision, your stewardship, your spiritual authority, your emotional maturity, your ability to stand under pressure. The delay is not working against you. It is working for you. Because when God finally releases the blessing, nothing the enemy built will be strong enough to stop it. And you will walk into that new season not fragile, but fortified. There is a moment in every spiritual journey when God stops whispering and begins confronting, not to shame you, not to punish you, but to save you from a future the enemy has already mapped out. And that moment is now. Because the financial struggle you're facing is not just a hardship, it's a conversation, a divine interruption, a spiritual red flag, a holy echo saying, you cannot walk into your next season with the patterns of your last one. God isn't asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to be awake, to see the habits that drain you, to see the influences that weaken you, to see the distractions that delay you, to see the traps that look small, but cost you everything in the long run. And the most powerful truth is this. The breakthrough you've been praying for is waiting on the version of you who finally listens to the warning. Not the exhausted version of you, not the fearful version of you, not the maybe tomorrow version of you, but the aligned you, the focused you, the disciplined you, the spiritually alert you. Because once you choose alignment, the blessing that felt blocked begins to move. The clarity returns, the doors open, the finances stabilize, the opportunities appear. The peace you lost comes back home. Not because the world changed, but because you did. God's warning is not a threat. It's a rescue, a redirection, an invitation into the life He has prepared for you. Now the question becomes, will you heed the warning or repeat the pattern? If this message opened your eyes, if something in you shifted, if you realized the struggle wasn't just a problem, but a warning, don't leave this video quietly. Comment, I hear you, God. Say it as a declaration. Say it as a choice. Say it as the moment you stop repeating patterns and start walking in alignment. Your comment isn't for me. It's not for the algorithm. It's your first act of obedience after God reveals what the enemy hoped you'd never see. So write it boldly. I hear you, God. Heaven responds when His children do.